Good morning, it's Norma Cowie, and I'm here with Norma Talks, some metaphysical topics. Today is going to be a little bit different than what I usually do, which is pick a topic and talk about it. One of the things that I really like is my subscribers, which, by the way, thank you for subscribing. I have just reached 500 subscribers. Got a lovely little note from YouTube saying I now have as many subscribers that can fill a jumbo jet. So I want you all to jump on the jumbo and keep supporting and keep commenting. And today, that's what we're going to do. I have to give some preface to all of this. 11 years ago, I was doing some workshops at a spring festival of awareness. And a friend of mine took videos of these, and we posted them on my YouTube channel, same one as you watch now, which I had created because I'd like to do critiques of movies, and that, so I set it up for that originally. But anyway, making a long story short, when you make comments, most of the time, not always, sometimes I'm tied up or got other things happening, I write back to your comments. I love your comments. I just really do. Anyway, one of my subscribers started watching a lot of my work. And actually, he prefaced this particular one saying, after he'd watched this, and it's called a Metaphysical Discussion Workshop Part 3. I couldn't believe it. 11 years ago seems to me like forever. But anyway, he says, beautiful. I need to watch everything on your channel. I thought that was delightful. And then he had a whole lot of questions, or some of them were comments, not so much questions. And I began to think, how am I going to answer all this? So I went, great. It'll be a show. I'll answer them, because often it's a lot of what people think about. The other thing I want to say before I start is I have come to some conclusions over the years that is very different from what a lot of people think or believe, or what can you say? Anyway, I'm different, and I know that. And one of the reasons why I do my talks is because I don't travel like I used to. It's a one way of getting some of my viewpoints out there. And the major one is that I believe, of all the planets and the different vibrations out there, is that this is an emotional planet. And people come here in many different ways. Some people are sent here from other planets, other spaces. Some people arrive in groups. Some people arrive singularly. But very often, most of them are not aware they're coming into an emotional planet and having to learn about emotions, rather than a mental planet, which I have found that most planets are. Spaces like fairy space or healing space or artistic space, they're different feeling. They're not mental and or emotional. They just are. Now, so what most people have the difficulty with, that I have discovered through psychic readings and transformation work, past life regressions, and all the other work I have created and done over the years, is that most people don't really understand what feelings are. And in fact, I did a little short on it yesterday about feelings are your body's way of talking to you. But anyway, I want to show you this picture here, and I'm going to bring it really close, and you'll see there's a circle. It says Earth, then it says astral, and then I just want to make sure. Yeah, I've got to remember my own things here. I want to make sure they're on. You should see it. Astral, mental, causal, and then I've got white light. I tried doing this a different way. I don't know how to hold something and then put it on up that way. So I'm going to talk about the different spaces that we go through when we leave our body, basically. But anyway, this is what I was talking about, and these are the questions that come back. And again, my subscriber has some feelings that he admits that a lot of people have. And I'm going to say exactly how the comment is. I'm going to answer it how I would answer it one-on-one. His first comment was, I hate this earth and humanity not nature, though, in brackets. And I made myself a couple of notes in places. So why that is because is that it's very obvious to me that you're very mental. So you think and you're trying to analyze. Feelings and emotions don't like being analyzed at all. They, in fact, it's like two parts. This is the body. We live in bodies that feel. And what happens to most of it, we repress the feeling. I always suggest if you have a feeling come up, you name it, then the body feels hurt and it relaxes. So, and it also gives you contact with what your feelings really are. And when you hate something, it means there's something about yourself you don't like because everything is projected out. Nothing is separate. We're one with all that there is. And yes, there is sometimes we do hate I almost hate certain foods. I've learned to drop the word from my language. I will say I don't like that. And that's sort of a much lighter word than hating. But a lot of people feel that way. And humanity is like, sometimes it seems like they don't have a brain. That's true. But again, a lot of that is because you take a concept and you hold on to that concept and you don't get to see the wider or the bigger picture of why are we here on this planet going through this life? What is this life really teaching us? And many of us who work in the psychic realm or the any realm for regarding self-growth often look at what is it that this person in this life is actually coming to, what did they come to learn in this life? Because very often, as I'm a believer of reincarnation, we have many, many lives. So anyway, just to go on some of the questions here, I just feel that I don't belong. I think many of us feel that. And because often that you don't belong is because you're still not here on earth properly. And actually, the more I read this, it feels like you're a bright person. I understand that, but you're relatively new to this feeling thing, this emotional thing. And even if you've been here for a long time, you just keep rejecting the feelings and the whole sense of why we're here and the evolution of what we go through. It's a horrible feeling that you don't belong. And very often I have felt that feeling because I think so differently from the majority. I've been at conferences where tarot conferences, where I'm kind of the low voice around psychological understanding and personal growth coming from the symbology rather than the metaphorical aspect of that. And yet, I don't really belong, but I've been sitting on some very big questions where people pose questions and things like that. And I was very, very different. So where do we need to belong? We need to belong inside here. When we belong in here, when we accept who we are and all our foibles, as I'll say, that makes it easier because you need to find your people. You need to find people that are like you. And that's why people run to groups, because we need reinforcement that we're okay. Well, I haven't always had the groups. I taught and had a lot of students, and that was kind of in some ways my group, and a lot of them became my friends for many, many, many years. So it's really like, it is a horrible feeling to feel you don't belong. It's just like, where do I fit in? What is it? And we see them as wrong rather than you just haven't found the niche yet. But I still think it has a lot to do with feelings, emotions, those things that we don't like to feel. Excuse me. Now, the third one, I'm going to make sure I mark these off as I go, and I don't want to repeat. The third statement was, and remember, this came all in a big paragraph, and there was no way I could come back with all this. And I would never want to come back. Many, many, many people don't think they want to come back. And usually that means they do, because they haven't come to terms with what really this planet is about. I've come to value this planet over the years. I've come to value not only the beauty of it, but I have had many discussions with over the years with the Earth Mother. As I was growing this up above, you might say, I was also beginning to look down below, and I've learned a great deal about what really the Earth offers us. It welcomes us here. It is quite happy to support us. We don't always support it, but anyway. And so when we are having difficulty grappling with this whole emotional feeling element, and we want things to make sense, and it doesn't, feelings don't make sense often. There's no real reason for them. If you know how to begin to listen to your feelings come up and name them, things begin to make more sense than when you just got all this emotion running around and reaction going around. And so very often all we want is not to be here. I get that a lot. This is my last life. I'm not coming back. But the thing is, you've got to evolve. And that's what this thing I talked about from Earth into the astral planes. And I'll get to that because we get to that. So many people don't want to come back. They truly, truly don't. But the reality is, unless you have come to terms with your emotion and the acceptance of the universe, I call it the universal love force, you can call it whatever name you want, as you come in to realize that that's a part of this whole journey here. I'm sorry, it seems to be that you come back. You may not come back right away, but you will come back. But we'll talk about that again in a minute. Okay, another thing, the next comment was, I don't understand human logic. And I understand that. Mostly because human logic, you want to have in a mental way, and usually the people are responding emotionally. Here again, we go back to feelings. What is actually happening inside, and how is it working, and what is it doing, and how is it bringing? So really, you're not going to understand the human logic to a large degree. You've got to find out what is behind that logic. And with a very strong mind, which I believe this person has, they can begin to, instead of reacting to the craziness it may seem, is to take a look at the bigger picture. I think there's a bigger picture here. Now, the next one says, I don't even like the way, and it says physics works here. I don't know if it was saying psychics or physics. I'm kind of leaving that as a question out here, the way the physics works here. I'm not sure. The word as it's said is physics, I believe. It could be psychics as well. But I'm going to leave that, and you might have to ask me about that again. Then says, does this mean I probably will return when I don't understand, etc.? I don't want to be here. Yes. Bottom line. And I'm going to talk about the progression that we go through is important. Now that I'm just going to go through this, and I'll go through the movement that we make through the layers to leave this planet, leave this earth realm. And the next one was, and if you're out of the causal, so remember, the causal was the real high one before what we call the white light. I called it, it's easier to call it the white light when you're explaining it. If you're out of the causal, are you in the white light? Yes. And you have room to decide where you want to go next. Do you want to come back? Do you want to act as a guide? Do you want to move on to another experience? And so, yes, the answer is to that. I mean, if you're out of the causal, are you in the white light? Yes, it's the next, you might say the next rung on the ladder. And do you move to higher realms? Well, you'll move to different realms. You'll probably take a different job in relating to Earth, or you will move on to another realm that may need your expertise or your help or your awareness. So being out, our goal is to get to that high causal level, because even in every level that I talk about here, there are the stages. It's like steps. It's like a ladder going up the ladder. How far are you going to go up as you move from step to step? You may not even be aware when you go from astral to mental or intercausal, but we kind of define it in order to teach it. So that's another element. So yes, you do move. If you're doing your spiritual, this is a spiritual growth. This is not about mental. Well, the mental has a part to play in it because you have to understand it, but it's like connecting into the understanding of humanity and our body and this planet, etc. Because believe me, I was all in my head for many, many, many years, and I had to learn that my feelings were really important. And then I was taught, and I've often been taught, but as I have said before, by in dreams and night and with guides and things like that. So hang on a minute. Now, The next statement was, and you perhaps now you can see why I said I can't. How am I going to answer all this? And why does it take long for someone in the causal to return? Okay. Now, when you have come to the point of the causal, you probably at that point are taking on other jobs, like you're acting as a guide, or you're being taught how to be a guide, a spiritual guide. You are understanding more in depth of how the metaphysics of it, the mechanical element of it is working for people. You understand how fear works. It's like understanding that. And so people don't always want to come back into the physical, but they're still working on their growth. So they're working there. They've got attending schools. They've got beautiful, beautiful. You think of some of the beautiful universities on earth. Think of the same thing like in that realm. Like it's not that different from here, but you're not encumbered by a physical body. So that you are coming, and when and you just, it's like you move into these higher realms. It's easier in one way, but at the same point, you're having to redefine the essence so that you're not just attached to here, but you're expanding so that you can go into those different elements. What I've got here, move into higher realms. That's true. And why it says, and why does it take someone in the causal to return, which is, I think, the one I was sort of working on, is because you don't necessarily coming back into a physical body. There has to be a specific reason. Maybe there's something still that you got to work on and understand. But mostly that they're more likely to stay there in doing their work there. So that's why it takes so long. It's not like a time. It's not, time is endless. Time here we have a watch and a time and a day and night. But in the ethers up there, there's no real time. It's how are you progressing and where you're at. And you always have somebody there teaching you, being there for you, comforting you, letting you know and be aware, no matter what realm you are on. And the next question was, because I see them as questions, and why do entities attach themselves to people? Well, I'm a good one for answering that. Because I was did a lot of ghost busting and wrote a book about that, actually. And how and what to do. The first time I ever saw somebody that was dead clairvoyantly was when my husband and my then husband, who's now passed on, bought a house. And we walked into the house. Now, I'd been studying tarot for years, and I was... anyway, didn't even really realize how much else I had going on. My kids were quite young, I think, maybe 10 and 8. We bought our first house. And I walked in and I saw this figure of a woman appear in front of me, this younger woman. It wasn't very old. When I say it, she felt like a teenager, about 15, I think. I took one look at her and said, "Excuse me, this is my house now. You have to go." And she did. She left. And I felt guilty about that. And when I learned more about how to transition ghosts into the light, to bring light to them. And I had to do a lot of forgiveness for that. It was my ignorance. It was pure ignorance. I didn't know. I was even surprised that I saw a ghost, in a sense. She had died in the house, and she had never left because no one had ever shown her the light and where to go. So there is a lot of things why entities attach themselves is because they don't know where to go. No one's been there to teach them to aspire to a higher vibration. No one is there to help them across. And it's like I know when my time comes, someone's going to come for me, and I just have to let go of this realm. I have to let go. I can't hold on to anything. I can't say, but I want... No, you just have to let go and go with it. And a lot of teenagers, basically, they usually, when they're attaching themselves, is they're on the astral level. In other words, they're still here in the physical, but don't have a body. We see them a lot in pubs. People addicted to alcohol, people addicted to drugs in the physical when they die. unless they have somebody who comes in, a guide or another realm who's part of their jobs. There are jobs that people come in and they help those people to understand what's happened to them. A lot of people don't know they're dead. They don't know they're dead, and so they kind of cling on to stay in what they know. So that's why they attach themselves to somebody else who does what they do or has the same emotions that maybe they had before. So there's a lot of, again, we're dealing with emotions. Always remember, this is an emotional planet. Be comfortable with your feelings, even if you don't like them. So it's really important, but that's why they do that. Another one was, aren't entities people who passed away without learning their, and that's people who are, okay, so now maybe it's time. Hang on, let me tell you. I've got one more thing to add to that, then I'll put these two together. The last one he said was, why don't they just reincarnate instead? Okay, I'll tell you why. Here on Earth, we have a physical body. We create our vibration, we create our, and we deal with all these things. And for me, the main issue is to be able to deal with your emotion. And when I'm doing psychic readings for people with my tarot, one of my major things is to look at is how are they emotionally, because that affects everything. Because until I learned about this was an emotional planet, I had to deal with my feelings, because I was trying to make sense of everything, and it wasn't always working. It wasn't always coming together. Just as this subscriber is going, what? But it's like, so when we think, a lot of us who are, I'm going to say on the path, it sounds kind of, it's like aware that there's more than what we see with our physical eyes. What happens is that we begin our spiritual journey, our connection to the force of love. And I don't know which pathway you take to that, but it all leads into this road of love, because that is what I believe the planet creates for us to be able to work with and to do. It is a journey that often people don't understand. So it's like, and often they do reincarnate real fast. Sometimes. And I'll come more to that. And so the astral is really not that different from Earth, except you don't have a physical body. So they attach because they want a physical body. They feel comfortable with that. And so they do attach. I haven't worked so much with attachments that way as I have with people having activity in their household over the years. But then we move into, as we grow beyond that, and hopefully most people do that while they're here in a physical body. They begin to look at their spirituality. They begin to understand thoughts of things. They begin to understand that the feeling of the heart, the love element, is so important. They begin to accept things as they are and move it into a bigger picture. So they become more contented and more aware and more at peace within themselves. So you've left your body and you've gone on and you come into the mental realm. You pass the astral because you realize and you've been working to understand. Here, basically, too, a lot of it is that it's like school. Here's where they have you go to school. And again, you don't have to attend school. You don't have to go to play. You can still do lots of things and look around and understand. And you may take a day, you may take 1,000 years, because there's no time. It's just your evolvement. Now, remember, all along the way, there are teachers. There are people who will help you. They will talk to you. They will teach you what you need to know. They're there. It's like a tremendous support system. And that's what a lot of people from the causal do, is to help the mental come on up to the causal. Because Earth and astral are very similar, except one, in Earth we have a body, astral we do not. But the same thing applies. Are we aware of or everything else? Now, I've mentioned many times, and I think here, is that I was taught for many years at night. I went to school at night. I would wake up when the kids cried or something, and I'd be sitting in this, like a school chair I sat in when I was a kid at first beginning school. And I had this big, tall teacher. Years later, a friend of mine phoned me up and said, I've been attending these nights, at night I'm taken to the school. And I got curious, and I said to my teacher, do I know anybody else who's gone through this? And the person actually named me by name and said, yes, Norma's been through here long time ago now. And anyway, she phoned me up and I said, oh yeah, I had this big tall teacher. And she said, I had a short, fatter one. And I laughed because that's kind of our body types. I found that interesting. But it's like, yes. And also information would come to me in weird and wonderful ways sometimes. So it is an incredible awareness. Now, when you begin to grow and understand, then you come into the mental and you move through the stages. It's just like going through high school. And then you can graduate eventually into the causal realms. And that's when you will take on a bigger job. And that's why you do not reincarnate from that level, except when it's important. It's almost like being sent on a mission. And what we find today is that the children being born right now come in very aware. And that's been happening for some time. Where kids are coming in aware when they're here. It's not a surprise. And that's because they're coming back in because Earth's going through a difficult time period. So how that will all work out, we do not know. But we do know that higher beings are coming and being born into these little babies. And that's when magical things begin to happen because they know. It's like they know. They don't have to go through like I did, being taught, being shown, getting myself sorted out. And they know what they need to do. They know where they have to go. They know where they're doing. Then we've got this thing we call white light up there. And that's kind of like being connected to the one. And again, do you stay in that or do you go off to other elements? And that's when we're not, until we leave the mental, we're kind of, or the mental level, we are kind of geared around the vibration of Earth. But once we get into the causal, then the universe opens up again in a way. Now, some people move through everything really easily, no problem. I've done lots of talks about, okay, what's next for me kind of thing. And basically, at this point, it will be when I leave this planet, which is getting closer every year, is that I'll have a choice. I'll be given a choice as to what specifically I'd like to do, whether help, be a guide or whatever. I know that. And it's like what I've tried to do. And I say tried because I'm a little voice in a big pond of voices. But I find that people who work with me and really commit to what I say and the tips I give and things like that, they do well. But we have our own programming inside, and I guess that's for another day. Anyway, Mr. Subscriber, who you are, thank you. Thank you for all these questions. I hope as I answered them that it opened and maybe other people who listen had the same thinking and same thoughts, that it moves on out. Please tell your friends if they're not too sure what happens when you die. Remember this, when it is time for you to die, because it's a fact that you will. Those don't know when and you don't know how. But when you do, when it is your time, somebody will come for you. It will be either somebody you knew from your past. It could be a parent that's already transitioned. It could be somebody that cares about you. Who knows? But somebody will be there. And if nothing else, a loving entity will be there to help you across. I always tell my people, if you think you're dying, if you think you are, look for a light. And I have a funny story to tell you. When COVID first hit the world, and we didn't really even know what it was a bad flu. And I always, over the years in my life, I don't get flus, but I get bad flus. I've caught the big ones that went through right from the time I was 14. Anyway, I was in Mexico on holiday with my girlfriend. a friend of mine who lives in Toronto, and I began to feel worse and worse. I just wasn't feeling good at all. So I was glad to get back home. And anyway, I came home and I began to hear this thing about COVID, and me thinking, I went, well, this is it's a bad flu, but I didn't have the cough. Well, I'm not a chesty, coughy person. So I found my doctor and said, I'm really feeling good. And it wasn't really out yet. You know what I mean? I think I picked it up in the airport or something. So I was a little tired, which is why I'm coughing on this. And anyway, hang on a sec here. So I got sicker. I found the doctor twice, and each time she said, do you have a cough? And I said, no. She said, well, hang in there. Smart for her, because I didn't have to go through the whole rigmarole. So anyway, one night, and I started fevering. I got really fevering, and I don't have ever had fevers in my life, and I was like a fever going, and I went, am I dying? What's going on here? Then it was so funny. Rationality came in. Well, there's no mum, there's no Bridget. That's my daughter's on the other side. There's no light. No, I'm not dying. I just got a fever. So very often at Seaways, I knew what to look for, but it wasn't there. So, but I do know when the time comes, it'll be like, okay, now you got to let go of all and not be attached. The key is when you go, you can't be attached to anything, and you've got to look ahead to that light that comes for you, because it will. And usually people help you move into that. So I trust that you have enjoyed these, and I really want to thank my subscriber. And I say thank you that I told him I was going to do this, and I didn't get any email saying, no, don't, but because I figured it will help and aid other people understand the progression of the soul while we're in the physical. And I trust and hope I have done a good job for that. And before I go that, I have had some comments come in. I just want to say, Jerry says hello and thank you for this subject. I see a lot more folks saying this nowadays. Seems signs of the times in a way, and good afternoon. Thank you, Jerry. Also, another one, it says, hi, Norma. Glad to have caught you live. Enjoy your stories of experience. Yvonne says, thank you very much, Norma. Ishika says, hey, as she usually does. Do you see me landing in a job in this company? I love the way she always wants me to be psychic on anything that I do. And only Monday nights do I really do that. But anyway, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please listen to some of the things that I've said, especially about this is an emotional planet. One day I'll tell you some stories that I have about that. You to enjoy. Have a great day. Just go outside and smile and know this planet is beautiful, and the feelings that you have are yours. Just to claim them, name them, so your body feels relaxed. Okay? Bye now.